At Barcelona, sports cars were forbidden at training, so Zlatan Ibrahimovic brought his Ferrari to training. Zlatan doesn't play by the rules. He invents his own rules. As a teenager, Ibrahimovic was already on the radars of many of Europe's elite clubs, and Arsène Wenger invited him to North London in 2000 to discuss the possibility of a move. Arsenal had gifted him a number 9 jersey with Ibrahimovic printed on the back to charm the youngster into joining the Gunners, a jersey which Zlatan infamously posed for a picture in. However, when Wenger offered Ibrahimovic a trial so he could see what kind of player he really was, the young Swede was disgusted, replying with a line which captures his supremely confident persona. Zlatan doesn't do auditions. Zlatan isn't the easiest of players to manage. He has a big ego, and has even been forced out of clubs for violently injuring his own teammate. He's had bust-ups so bad, one of his teammates nearly unalived him.
Who did you throw a pair of scissors at in 2003?
Zlatan Ibrahimovic.
Correct. Stop the clock. Why was that? I mean, I guarantee you're probably not the only person in football to want to throw an object at Zlatan Ibrahimovic.
Make no mistake, Zlatan Ibrahimovic was not born cocky, nor is his arrogance anything more than an elite sportsman's unblinkered focus on being the very best he can be. I also want to send a thought to all the kids out there, he writes in the dedication to his 2011 autobiography. All the kids who feel different, who don't quite fit in, and who are singled out for the wrong reasons. It is okay not to be like everyone else. Keep believing in yourself. Things worked out for me after all. Born to Jurka and Shefik Ibrahimovic on 3rd of October 1981, Zlatan was immediately an outsider. His Bosnian father was a bricklayer and caretaker, and his Croatian mother, a cleaner. He may have been born in Malmo, but he wasn't made to feel Swedish by his peers. "You can take the boy out of the ghetto," he said in reflection of his break with Pep Guardiola and Barcelona in 2010. "But you can never take the ghetto out of the boy." That ghetto was in Rosengård, and as a small kid with a lisp, growing up in a neighborhood as ethnically diverse full of Somalis, Turks, Yugoslavians, and Poles, wasn't easy. Made harder by a turbulent home life that had Zlatan and his sister Sanela separated by social services. His dad was awarded custody of him, his mother custody of his sister. Zlatan has half-brothers and sisters, but Sanela is his only full sibling. He looked up to her and loved his mother, despite the warmth being unrequited at the time. Sure, she'd hit us with wooden spoons and boxed our ears and didn't listen to us, but she loved her kids. Living with a dad who was being mentally tormented by the ongoing Yugoslav war. It was against this backdrop that Zlatan began bouncing between youth clubs, MBI, FBK Balkan, BK Flag, and between stints in goal and spells up front, all pulling on the skills and party pieces he had to learn whilst playing on the council estates. "Give me the child until he is 7, Aristotle purportedly declared, "and I will show you the man." Whether he said it or not, it was a prophecy with Zlatan. When he signed for Ajax in 2001, he chose to carry his surname on his shirt. In Sweden with Malmo FF, he was known simply as Zlatan. "Let the world know who I am and where I am from," was the message. When a talented yet unproven 20-year-old Zlatan Ibrahimovic arrived at Ajax in 2001 from his hometown club Malmo, he struggled to break into the first team, battling for a place up front with Egyptian striker Mido, who had also arrived that summer. Initially, it was a healthy rivalry between teammates, pushing each other to increasingly impressive levels of performance. But the relationship would imminently turn sour when Zlatan broke his way into the starting lineup, much to the animosity of Mido. Upon arrival, he found starting places few and far between under manager Ko Adriance, who preferred Mido to the Swede. Veteran Greek striker Nikos Maklas had already proven his worth with 28 goals in his first 2 seasons at the club, and the 2 youngsters were tasked with fighting for a place alongside him in Adriance's preferred use of 2 strikers in a 4-4-2 or 5-3-2 formation. Ibrahimovic got off to a rocky start in the Netherlands, struggling to find the net and failing to impress the Ajax supporters. Even before his arrival, he wasn't carving out the best image in the media, being given an unfair tag due to early exonerations of reckless driving in Sweden. Frustration got the better of him in an Eredivisie game against Groningen, as an overhit cross sailed beyond his reach and into the goalkeeper's hands. Play had paused momentarily, and Ibrahimovic delivered a sharp elbow to the back of the head of the defender who had been marking him. The Groningen defenders and supporters were outraged, but the referee never saw it. After the game, the KNVB issued him with a 5-match ban after video footage clearly showed his strike on the opponent. Mido would continue to feature as Ibrahimovic was forced to watch from the sidelines. At the time, the Egyptian was 18 years old, a hot prospect with an even hotter head. Indeed, it was his short fuse and lack of control, which often landed him in trouble. Next, it was Mido's turn to lose his cool. In a league match against Twente in November, Mido gave in to the red mist and was sent off after 40 minutes for kicking out at Serbian defender Spira Grujic. Ajax managed to scrape a 3-2 victory, but Adriance's time was up at the club. After being dumped out of the Champions League third qualifying round by Celtic and a run of poor results in November, the board sacked Adriance and brought Ronald Koeman in as his replacement. Mido was subsequently reprimanded with a 3-match ban. Enter Ibrahimovic. The Swede started the next league game and scored a brace in a 4-0 win against Fortuna Sittard. Mido was concerned that he had gifted Zlatan the opportunity to showcase his obvious ability in his absence, and was even more determined to keep him out of the squad when he returned from suspension. After jumping into the starting lineup, Mido's temper soon let him down again when he was involved in a training ground bust-up with Koeman, which led to him flying home to Cairo to cool off. Despite Mido's frequent strops, the battle with Ibrahimovic proved beneficial for Ajax in their debut seasons at the club. Ajax brought the Eredivisie title back to Amsterdam for the first time in 4 years, and added the KNVB Cup to their trophy haul in Koeman's first season as coach. After a series of impressive displays upon his return from Cairo, Mido had started the cup final against Utrecht, while Zlatan was left on the bench, and the Egyptian opened the scoring for Ajax. Zlatan later emerged from the bench to score a golden goal in the 95th minute to seal the double for Ajax. Mido had finished the season with 13 goals after 31 appearances, while Zlatan netted 9 times in 33. However, it was the academy prodigy Rafael van der Vaart who finished the season as top scorer with 17 goals. More on van der Vaart later. It swiftly became clear to Koeman that neither player wanted to play second fiddle to the other, but no one could have envisaged that the relationship would be pushed to such extremes the following season, materializing into one of the biggest bust-ups to ever take place at the club. The feud between the pair would eventually transpire into the Egyptian being removed from the club via a loan move to Celta Vigo, as their careers embarked on 2 vastly different trajectories. Back in his coach's good books, Mido started the season as the preferred striker, as Koeman frequently adapted to an attacking 4-3-3 formation. Both players were now battling for the focal center-forward spot. Regularly rotated by Koeman, Ibrahimovic and Mido rarely featured on the pitch together. However, both players managed to perform when called upon, despite the increasingly tempestuous relationship quietly bubbling under the surface, like a naval mine waiting to detonate. Ibrahimovic bided his time and quietly went about his business, while Mido publicly announced his unhappiness at his lack of starting places in the squad. Koeman criticized Mido's attitude in training and on the pitch when his performances began to dwindle, and the striker was furious when he was replaced by Ibrahimovic after just 30 minutes in a fixture against Groningen. Koeman dropped Mido from the squad for the following fixture, who went public with his desire to leave the club in the upcoming transfer window. The Egyptian later revoked and apologized for the statement, but the damage had already been done. The club handed him a hefty fine and suspension for his outburst. Zlatan was likened to the legendary Marco van Basten, given his stature and reputation in his home country, and was awarded the famous number 9 shirt to further intensify expectations. 2 weeks later, Ajax hosted Lyon in their opening Champions League Group D fixture, and it took Ibrahimovic just 11 minutes to announce himself to a worldwide audience. He picks up the ball to the left of the goal, guarded by Gregory Coupé. Pausing for a moment with his foot on the ball, he lures 2 defenders towards him, then shimmies right between them and unleashes a thunderous strike off the far post and into the back of the net. His second arrived after some expert interplay down the right flank from Victor Sikora and Jari Litmanen, which allowed Ibrahimovic to tap home from 10 yards. The game finished 2-1 to Ajax, and a brace from Zlatan in his tournament debut ensured that his stock rose immediately and exponentially higher. Wenger must have been ruining the day he offered him a trial. Mito worked his way back into the team after his hiatus, but his last game for the club came in March 2003 in a tough 2-0 defeat to bitter rivals PSV Eindhoven. He appeared as a substitute in the second half and, shrouded in a steam of stubborn aggression, refused to pass the ball to Ibrahimovic when he was blatantly through on goal. Mito stormed into the dressing room spewing insults at his teammates after the final whistle, and Ibrahimovic immediately fired back at the Egyptian. Cutting the wrappings off his socks with scissors, Mito looked up and hurled them at Zlatan, narrowly missing his head. "It was completely nuts," said Zlatan in his 2013 biography, "I Am Zlatan Ibrahimovic. The scissors whizzed past my head, straight into the concrete wall and made a crack." Zlatan consequently rushed at Mito, delivering a smack to the head, and the pair had to be separated. In the 2016 Swedish documentary, Becoming Zlatan, Mito shed light on the incident which effectively ended his Ajax career. "I was very upset I didn't start the game," said Mito. "When I came on, we were 2-0 down, and I started arguing with Zlatan on the pitch. I was shouting at everyone, and Zlatan was shouting back at me. I had scissors in my hand as I was taking off the wrapping on my ankles. 10 minutes later, I went into the shower, and he was sitting in the jacuzzi. We just looked at each other and started laughing. I said to Zlatan, 'You know that I almost unalived you?' And he said, 'Yeah, I know.' You don't understand how people were following me back in Egypt. I was the only player playing from there at the top level. So, people were waiting for the Ajax game. All the coffee shops, the restaurants, everywhere was just waiting for the Ajax game. My attitude has always been, if I'm not playing, you have a personal problem with me. When I got to the point where I had to fight for my position, I handled things the wrong way."
Zlatan, the second season, he started to do better. He started to gain his confidence back, and I started to create problems, which actually, it helped Zlatan a lot to get into the team. You don't understand how people were following me back here in Egypt. I was the only player that playing at the top level in Europe, so people were waiting for the Ajax game. Ajax will play today, so we have to sit and watch Mito. All the coffee shops, all the restaurants, everywhere was just waiting for the Ajax game. If I'm not playing, you have a personal problem with me.
It wasn't until years after Ibrahimovic's departure from Ajax that he discovered Koeman had actually kept the scissors in question as a souvenir. Perhaps as a symbol of how fortunate the players were not to have been seriously hurt, and a reminder to never allow such tensions to boil over again. Despite Mito's temper and histrionic reactions, he managed to find the net 10 times in 26 games in the 2002-03 season, before he was loaned out to Celta. Ibrahimovic would go on to find the net 21 times, but was again outgunned by attack rival Rafael van der Vaart, who finished the campaign with 22 goals. Ajax painfully missed out on the Eredivisie by a point as PSV claimed their 17th title. Mito was gone, but Zlatan was now set for a new war with van der Vaart to be the star of the Ajax team. Ibrahimovic cemented his place as the club's first-choice striker and finished the following season as De Godenzonen's top scorer with 15 goals to Van der Vaart's 8 as Ajax reclaimed the Eredivisie title. As for Mido, he would go on to play for 10 different clubs in 6 countries over the next decade, never recapturing the goal-scoring form he displayed in his 2 seasons at Ajax. His only other major title came in a brief loan move that brought him back to Ajax in 2010-11 from Middlesbrough, where he scored 3 times in 6 appearances and helped the club to its 22nd league title. Ibrahimovic, on the other hand, would go on to enjoy a glittering career with 12 more league titles with 6 separate clubs, although both of his Juventus titles were revoked as a result of Calciopoli. The rivalry between Zlatan and Van der Vaart was different to that of Mido, as they were not directly battling for a place within the team. Rather, they were battling for their status at the club. Who was number 1? On 18th of August 2004, Sweden hosted the Netherlands in a rematch of the Euro 2004, which the Swedes narrowly lost in a penalty shootout 5-4. It was billed as a friendly match, but there was an added bite emanating from the Swedes, particularly Ibrahimovic, facing several of his Ajax colleagues. In the lead-up to Mattias Jansson's opening goal for Sweden, Ibrahimovic received the ball outside the box and attempted to wiggle his way around 4 onrushing Dutch players. He reached for a ball that became loose, and in the process, his studs clamped down the back of Van der Vaart's ankle. Ibrahimovic said that it came as an unfortunate result of him protecting the ball, while Van der Vaart claimed it was a malicious challenge to maim. The game ended in a 2-2 stalemate, but the Ajax captain had to be substituted due to ankle ligament damage and was incensed at Ibrahimovic, berating him in the media after the game, contending that his teammate had injured him on purpose. Upon the players' return to Amsterdam, Van der Vaart held a team meeting with Koeman and demanded both an explanation and an apology from Ibrahimovic. He received neither. "If you accuse me again, I'll break both your legs, and this time it will be on purpose," Zlatan recalled in his biography. Nonetheless, Ibrahimovic's time at Ajax was coming to an end. He had begun to outgrow the club, and another rising dispute between 2 Ajax's star players looked to be irresolvable. Eager to disarm the spat before a repeat of the Zlatan versus Mido event, Koeman and the board accepted a $16 million deadline day offer for Zlatan from Juventus, but not before he gave the fans one last look at the player he was set to become. In his penultimate game for the club, Ibrahimovic led the line against NAC Breda, while an injured Van der Vaart watched from the stands. The atmosphere around the stadium was palpable. The Ajax supporters had sided wholeheartedly with club captain and fan favorite Van der Vaart. Zlatan was booed and whistled on the ball. Even when he leveled the scoring at 1-1, he received an oddly muted reception. Ibrahimovic added a second to make it 5-1, but there was still a sense of conflict coming from the supporters in the stands. But not even the most obstinate Van der Vaart supporter would have the capacity to resist paying homage to the sheer brilliance of his third goal. Ibrahimovic received the ball while holding off a defender with his back to goal, 30 yards from his target. He swiveled, bobbed, and weaved his way past 6 NAC defenders, ostentatiously beating some more than once, and slotted the ball beyond the hapless goalkeeper to seal his final goal, and arguably the best of his illustrious career. The crowd erupted in a raucous ovation. The Dutch commentator instantly compared Zlatan to the likes of Maradona and Zidane, while the camera panned to highlight a stone-faced Van der Vaart, the only person in the stadium still glued to his seat. A goal to take your breath away, it was one of the great solo strikes of all time, and an indication of what Ajax was letting go of. A game changer, a magisterial forward, and someone who would become one of the finest strikers in history. If ever there was a perfect way to score your last goal for a club, it would be Zlatan Ibrahimovic's magnificent solo goal for Ajax against NAC Breda. If you enjoyed this story, smash the subscribe button for more videos like
That I
this.
think he can be considered as one of the greatest players.
Rolling it in here for Ibrahimovic! 2-1 United! That is what he does in a flash, worth his weight in gold.
Ibra in area di rigore,
The thing is, in the last years, when you're thinking how many years more you want to play, you want to come every day train, you want to do that sacrifice, that is where you're hesitating to play the game. And I will walk out just like I came in. I will not walk out limping. I will walk out the way I want to walk out. And even if I have to walk on water, I will do that also.